Welcome to the Color Authority podcast. This is Judith Van Vliet, podcasting out of Milan, and I have an amazing interview in foresight with Lisa Maria Pippus. She's born in Canada. She lives in Berlin, Germany. She studied fashion in Toronto and Milan, and she empowers design and style professionals to speed reads their own, but also their clients' aesthetic preferences through the aesthetic complex inventory. By understanding the 4 aesthetic directions and their subtypes, this will allow them to add to their bottom line. By quickly understanding language, color, line, and shape choices that indeed make their clients' heart sing, the aesthetic preferences compass also empowers leaders to be fabulously on brand. This means to express their truth in a powerfully authentic way by aligning their personality strengths to the wardrobe so they are seen, heard, and valued. Good morning, Lisa, and welcome to the Color Authority. How are you this morning?
Oh, good morning, Judith. I am well and absolutely excited and thrilled to be here. So thank you so much for this wonderful invitation.
You look wonderful in exactly the color, because we've met, of course, a couple of months ago.
Right.
And we talked about colors and how certain colors really elevate your spirit and your energy. And I think we have a similar color palette, because when I look at what you're wearing, which are colors of echo, beige, and sand, I think those are also my colors.
You were wearing them in Milan. You had this fabulous echo suit and you had gold. So yeah, we're on a color energy wavelength.
Yes, we definitely are. So I've been having this podcast now. I think this is my 4th season. I always ask that very same question, because I'm always, I'm trying to get that thread about what color is for people. And I wanted to ask you that same question. What is color to you, Lisa?
Right. I love all your questions, I want to say. All of them. And they're so helpful to work through this. So I would say that color is definitely energy and communication. And color can express so many things. A really good analogy is the voice. If you leverage the power of your voice through volume and pitch and speed and pausing, you can communicate so much if you leverage it. And if you understand color energy in terms of clothing, you could have a formal power color, an approachable color, an intimate color, an exciting color, a soft color, a dramatic color, a shining color. So it's really energy that communicates. That's how I would describe it for my work.
Yeah, for your type of work, indeed. You do something that's pretty amazing. And when I heard what you did, I've been hearing, obviously, people that do what you do, but I think you have a different take on it. So we're going to get to that, because where your career started was in fashion, because you studied fashion in Milan and then in Toronto, because you're born Canadian, but you're now living and working in Berlin. Where did your passion come from for fashion? What is so important for you to have learned from that fashion, having studied fashion? What were important learning points for where you are today?
So I did school in Toronto and then 2 different schools in Milan. And hindsight is, of course, fabulous. And I can say color has always been for me joy. It's always color and beautiful fabrics have always been a joy. This is something I really understand looking back. And what I learned from school, I love that you asked me that question, because I had to really think, what was the biggest take home? And it happened at Marangoni. And I came into this illustration class, and there was this young woman. She had a black pixie cut, olive skin, brown eyes. She was tall and slim-hipped. And she was wearing this cobalt blue cardigan, this white shirt, black cigarette pants, and black ballerinas. And I was absolutely mesmerized. And even though I'm a sewer, I went to Via Paolo Sarpi and I got myself a cheap version of this outfit. And the next morning I was standing in Viale Montenero and I felt complete dis-ease, discomfort. complete discomfort, and I didn't know why. And connected to this is when we moved to Vancouver and I was 10, 11, 12, we went to the Vancouver Fair and they had a dream home. And this dream home had a bedroom and it was Louis XVI. Of course, it was fake Louis XVI, but it doesn't matter from an aesthetic energy point of view. I loved this room. And this room was pale and muted and gold and lots of S curves. And you know what? It's what I'm wearing today.
Yeah.
I didn't realize at the time that I was mesmerized, not so much by the clothes, but the harmony with her. And that I didn't know that I didn't have that harmony.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's my biggest take home, that my style was there when I was 10.
Yeah.
I just didn't know it.
You were mesmerized by this woman's energy and what she was wearing, but it's a clear example of how sometimes when we look at something and we like it and we enjoy it, even when traveling, we go places, we buy souvenirs, we buy textiles, we buy beautiful, wherever we're traveling, we take them home and then it doesn't work, or it doesn't work on us because we love that energy, we love those colors. They're not part of who we are ourselves, right? That was your biggest lesson.
That was my biggest lesson. And when I think back to, because you asked me how I developed my stuff.
Learning from what you saw with that woman, it not fitting to you, and then you come into this space and you just acknowledge, this is where I'm comfortable. I feel that these are also my type of colors. Is that where your journey started to where you are today, and with the methodology that you have developed?
I love all of these questions. So I have to say that in Toronto, but more with my 11 years in Milan, I developed my eye through going to art museums, fashion museums, furniture museums, looking at beautiful shops, looking at beautiful layouts, whether it's in a hotel or even how the vegetable person lays things out. So I would say I trained my eye. What was needed for my personal style was really nonviolent communication and boundary setting. Nonviolent communication really taught me to understand feelings that impact me, whether it's sort of bliss or joy or being thrilled by something or empowerment. And boundary setting courses really taught me to stay on my side of the fence. I had my ex-husband is an artist, and he had a very particular direction that he liked. And in the beginning, I thought that was my direction too. His family are art historians, artists. And I thought, oh, this is a very clever explanation for this work of art. Maybe I like it. And it took me time to realize and stay on my side of the fence to observe aesthetics and then decide what I like. So that really has been the journey. It's the training of the eye and then learning to stay on your side of the fence and to make choices that really touch me.
And that's not only on the color reference, of course, that is on many things. And I think when we're younger, this is a hard part, and it comes with experience, many life lessons. And this is also where you have started to help other people, right? That maybe are incredibly talented people, but they have this small, let's say, problem or issue where they're not hitting it right? They're not exactly in their energy when it comes to perhaps color combinations or their wardrobe. And that is a methodology that you have developed, which I think is very interesting because, as you say, you define somebody's energy and personality strengths through communication, and color reinforces what you want to stand for, right? As a person.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I would say that all of the people who come to me are smart, bright, talented.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reminded of something. There's a lovely interview with Oprah and Brene Brown. Ask Oprah, your biggest fear, not being enough or being too much. And this is, in the end, why people come to me. There's more there, and there is a fear. It's come from the family or the society or in some way from the environment that maybe the way I want to show up is too much. It hasn't been articulated, but there's that feeling. So people come and they come with style, of course. They come with their style, but there's a sense that there's more that I would like to express. And that more that I wish to express is clearly part of your talent and purpose, and it's going to help others. So I would say the fundamental is that smart, talented people come to me because they know that they can express more of their purpose. And they know that they can use color. Well, they sense it. Maybe know is too strong a word. They sense that there is more that they can express to have more impact and influence, which is about getting your gifting out in the world.
And that's very important, of course, because there's multiple ways to do that, and there's multiple ways in how you talk and how you communicate. Obviously, body language is important there.
Right.
It is also how you can express yourself through color. So you define somebody's, let's say, on-brand style and color palette. What do you look at in a person when you do that? So they come to you and they say, something's missing. I'm not expressing things correctly, perhaps, or I just want to go all the way. Help me. Like, what do you look at in a person to define their style and color palette?
So what I'm looking at or what I'm explaining to people is that this is not a diagnosis. You can go somewhere and in 2 hours have a diagnosis. You are summer and you are classic, or you are spring and you are bohemian. And for some people that works. For many people, it doesn't resonate. The colors don't resonate with them, and they want color in a bigger context. They don't just want, you can wear red and blue. They actually want to take a deep dive to express more energy, more expertise, and more of their personality strengths. And that is why the first step here is with brand archetypes, to get people to choose their language. You know, everything is created twice, first in the mind and then in reality. And I want people to understand that they are the experts on themselves, not me. So when people choose their brand archetype language, they also choose a picture to support it. And you can imagine that if somebody says credible, trustworthy, and determined, they're choosing other pictures than someone who says bright, fresh, and inspiring, or someone who says alluring, upbeat, and free. Because if we think about it, once we look at the picture close to the word, I had someone yesterday and she chose the word daring. And I said, do you love the word daring, or do you more love the sort of gentleness of this picture? And she said, no, the word daring. Then I said, let's go back and choose more pictures that are daring. And then all of a sudden people begin to see, if I said to you daring, what would a daring color be as a gut response?
A daring picture or a daring color? Because I'm already at
Daring
the
color.
level. See,
Daring color.
Daring color for me definitely would be red or purple.
Yes. And what would a gentle color be?
A gentle color would be like a pastel yellow.
Right. This knowledge, so color is a skill, but there is an inner knowing that people have when you say daring, when you say gentle, when you say intimate. As they choose these pictures, we're not even talking about fashion at this point. I always say choose pictures that aren't fashion. So they're choosing nature or rooms or whatever. People understand, oh, I know. And the point of this coaching is I could not choose your 6 words, and I could not choose the 6 pictures that you would match to them.
That's right. They connect with what they're seeing or what they're...
Right. So you and I could both have the word artistic, and you would come up with a completely different picture, one that I couldn't choose for you, and you couldn't choose mine. So that is why I came to see it's so important that people make all of these choices. I facilitate a process of diving deep into an intuitive aesthetic that is around line, shape, and color. But only the people can make these choices for themselves. They must be empowered to be the experts on themselves. That is the goal of this.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes it different working with you, because there's a lot of standards, right? So if you're blonde, you have blue eyes, this type of skin, this is the color set that you need to work with. It's very standardized in most occasions with most people that do what you do. And I think that is something, first of all, nobody wants to be standardized. And that's like a psychological thing. People all want their personalized palettes, their personalized...
Absolutely.
That's just like psychology. I mean, I remember when I was in an office where I had over, I don't even remember, maybe 80,000 colors, and I had 800 blues. No way my client was going to pick one of those 800 blues.
Right.
They wanted me to go to the lab and create their blue. So, I mean, that's a psychological thing, but I think that's also, it's nice that you don't just copy paste a label on them. This is your archetype. This is your color set. Thank you. Goodbye. I mean, you're working with them. You're listening attentively and you're working with them, but you're letting them in the end decide. And I think that is a good way, because then they own it, right?
Absolutely. That's it. You hit the nail on the head. And what's so interesting here is nobody gave Frida Kahlo her colors. Her colors, nobody gave Van Gogh his colors. Nobody gave Mondrian his colors. So what it is it's experience, which every single human being has. Not every single human being has had a chance to articulate. You have gifted me the chance to articulate with these beautiful questions. It allows me to articulate more and more clearly. So we have this experience, we articulate it, whether you are a singer, a painter, or an economist, it gets articulated into a song, a painting, a theory, in my case, a methodology. But what's most important for me is this idea that these people articulated, and no teacher, no matter how good she was in art school, could say, so Frida, these are your colors. And that is the approach that I've discovered that works for me. I have been on a journey to discover my style. I don't know what is in your heart and what sparks joy for you, but you can show me and I can facilitate this process where you show me ever more, because this is what you're doing with me. You're facilitating this process by asking me all these fabulous questions, and I get to more and figure out more of my ideas. You don't answer for me, but you have come up with fabulous questions.
That's what I love about my podcast, the conversations and the people. I think it's not just me learning and the people listening. It is also the people that get invited, because the question trigger a new thinking process.
Yeah, this is absolutely what I discovered. This is really exciting. So in a way, we are doing the same work. We trigger something, then we ask something else. And as you said at the beginning, we're not 100% sure where this is going to go. I mean, we know that we're talking more about color than golf.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. But this freedom, this creativity that you give me to explore, this is what brings insight and depth to my work. So it's what I do with my clients.
So once you've decided with your clients what archetype they are, what comes next? So once you know somebody's archetype and you've explained it perhaps to them, what is the next step in defining their style and then of course that color palette?
Right. Once they've chosen the archetypes, and sometimes this takes 3 coaching sessions, and they go back and they look a bit more until they can really feel that's it. Then, and to this point, we're not looking at clothing because there's a lot of freedom in not looking at clothing. And then we move on to do style power codes. So 12, I've taken this from film messages, and there are 12 style power codes that they look at because often, because of the environment, people are looking at a very narrow group of colors and silhouettes because that's their environment. So they look at these 12 style power codes, and it's a gut choice which 4 are theirs. To help them understand this, I get them to choose sofas in a room, plants, artworks that they love to have on a wall or in a room, table settings, things where people are very free. And I say to people, often they will say, I'm not so sure about my style. And I say, if I show you 100 sofas, you will say, no, 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 yes, no. I show you table settings. And you can say, oh, too formal. Oh, I like that with the bottle of wine and the baguette on the floor. Or, oh, I like that picture of a picnic overlooking a field. So people make these choices, and then all of a sudden, a part of them comes out that's there, but they haven't articulated. So you might get a tech CEO come in a black hoodie, and then all of a sudden, these are dinner plates from Marie Antoinette and sparkling table settings that look like they're at Versailles. And table settings, as the way people choose them, will tell you also a direction where they want to go. So someone who's very formally dressed, but it's all about baguettes and cheese on the floor, or a huge round table with lots of people, tells you also what's going to happen. So I set the categories, choose these categories, and then they choose. And what we get to see is how their words, so the content, their words and the pictures for their brand archetypes flow into the artwork, the flowers. You know, some people have very formal bouquets, very structured formal bouquets. Some people love peonies and all the petals are dropping onto the ground and it's very asymmetrical. So people are telling stories through these choices, and they're free. This is the most important. They're free to pull up what's there.
But very often, like I'm still thinking on that person that came in a black hoodie. Like I'm thinking San Francisco, Silicon Valley right now. Obviously, I think like most people that then chooses a table setting out of I don't know what decade in France. Is that
Right.
Does that mean that they're disconnected from who they truly are, or is that their threshold that they're not willing to yet overcome? Like how do you take them by the hands and get that black hoodie off so that they can then embrace technically who they really are when they get to choose in full freedom, right?
That's it, Judith. That's absolutely it.
Do trends have impact on what you do with your methodology? Color trends, of course.
Yes. And particularly going back to the black hoodie situation, I would say that to develop personal brand style meaning to be aligned from the inside out. and experience that for yourself rather than a diagnosis where somebody tells you. So to develop personal brand style, you need three kinds of awareness. You need an awareness of what I call the aesthetic compass, brand archetypes, the 12 brand archetypes, 12 style power codes, fabric codes, color DNA. That's an external awareness. And then you have an overview of what exists. Then you need an awareness of zeitgeist aesthetic or trend aesthetic. How is society shifting? How is this affecting aesthetics? And then you need your personal position in the aesthetic compass. Mm-hmm. And that allows you to look at these societal shifts and say, I can see this shift is happening, this aesthetic shift is happening, this mindset is changing. And this is absolutely fabulous for me. Finally, this is my time. Or you can say, and this is the boundary setting here, I love, in the case of this particular person, the colors were all pinks and purples. The artwork was sunsets, sunrises, everything soft and pinky and purpley. You can say, I have adopted the zeitgeist aesthetic in my company, but it's not completely mine. And this is where, when you have all three, an overview of the aesthetic compass, an understanding of the aesthetic zeitgeist, and then your position, your aesthetic position, you are really in a position to choose what is fabulous for you, what is truthful for you. And then you build a zero waste wardrobe because you don't buy for other people.
You just mentioned color DNA. Can you explain what that exactly means? Because you work a lot with color DNA.
When you look at Frida Kahlo, let's go back to those two examples, Frida Kahlo and Van Gogh. They have a color DNA in their pictures. There is a palette. And actually, Caravaggio, when you look at these palettes are the painters and the paintings. It's all one. Humans have a color palette. It's not that people come to you and you show them 1,000 Pinterest pictures and they say, I love all those sofas. No, they have a specific aesthetic direction. And this color DNA is very much connected to an overarching aesthetic DNA. In my case, I like light. I love light. I have mushroom colored hair and I am relatively low contrast. Mm-hmm. I have, let's say, relatively low chroma. I love light values. Everything I described to you about that dream bedroom. So this is inherent in me and it's in my skin and hair and eyes, but that's about 30%. It's too little.
Okay.
But I also have an inner energy that comes from my experiences where I've grown up. I listened when you were speaking with Rania and she spoke about loving white and also loving white, and she was surrounded by it. So a part of what we love repeats us. This was really a revelation for me that I don't have to come in and give people color, because when you give people the space and time to go inside, they will automatically connect to their body, because this is a holistic experience. They'll connect to the body, but they'll also connect inside. If you look at, for example, the Marshall Rosenberg feeling inventory, I love bliss and rapture and joy. And I love cream and gold and anything that for me evokes that. There are people who will choose security and safety, and say, these are words that mean a lot to me. So all of these elements, you can't separate the color of an apple from an apple, and you can't separate the color of a grape from a grape or a pomegranate. So it's important to know that we are holistic. 30% is color of skin, hair, and eyes, but it's not enough. And that is why it can happen that somebody can go and have this diagnosis and be told you're this, and it missed the boat because it doesn't understand what colors are inside that person. So people who choose bright love words like bright and fresh and fun. Those words contain their color DNA. Yes, their skin, hair, and eye contain it, but also the language that they choose. So we have to be very careful about making assumptions based purely on skin, hair, and eyes of what moves a person, what sparks joy inside them, what is fabulous for them.
And that's exactly what I said in the beginning, indeed, that seasonal color analysis is very fashionable right now. There's a lot of people that suddenly have become stylists that help out people with their color palettes. But it seems that these are some of the pitfalls. People are just merely looking at that 30% and they're forgetting about the 70% of who in the end we are, which is energy and what we stand for.
Right. And people are coming to experience more personal power, to be empowered, and they're coming to experience a freedom. Most people have been given a tremendous amount of advice in their life about what works and what doesn't.
Especially when it's unasked advice. I think we most of the time get unasked advice from so many people, which is just only confusing.
Right. Thank you for clarifying that, because it's not feedback that we requested. Exactly. It is unsolicited advice. So people come and they have been told you cannot wear these colors together. You know, we have the old blue and green should never be seen. And yet what happens if we go into a park and we see green trees and blue sky? So there are these ideas of what you can and cannot do. And then I have clients who perhaps in their family heard stories around you can't wear this, or this would be too much. Or if you wear this, so people who love vivid color have been told that they would be too much. To imagine if that had happened to Frida Kahlo and she couldn't use her vivid colors because she was, as Brene Brown, when she asked Oprah, and Oprah said, fearful of being too much. But what about someone like Giorgio Morandi and all of these soft, pale colors? Imagine if someone had said to him, you are not enough.
Yeah.
So he brought back Morandi, these beautiful, soft colors and textures. They're just phenomenal. And that told also a part of his story after the Second World War, where he wanted to express peace.
Yep.
We look at the colors of Frida Kahlo, and she was so fiercely proud of being Mexican. And, you know, the flowers and the colors and the skirts. How could we possibly take that away from her? And how could we know that her gifting to the world is to give us that fierce, also vulnerable beauty? What we can do is give her the space to pull it out. So when you move too quickly and someone walks into the room, you don't know their dreams, you don't know where they've been squished and what's waiting to be freed. It's very difficult to say, I know you.
I was always told that yellow was not my color because of the color of my skin. And then I did my color therapy session with Mark Wentworth, but also with my another color therapy session that I did with also somebody I did a podcast with Thelma. They said, but you're born in yellow. You are literally born in yellow. Yellow is your color. It's what makes you radiate. It's what gives you joy, and it makes you shine. So to become who you really need and want to be, you need to dress a lot more in yellow to be you and to express who you are. But I was told for 40 years that yellow was not my color.
You know, thank you for sharing this story, Judith, because this is the insight into color DNA. You love golden warmth. You absolutely adore golden warmth. You love places that sparkle with golden warmth. How could golden warmth not be yours? Yet, what's happened with all of this will tell people who they are is it makes you doubt, because these are experts and they say with such conviction, no yellow. Yet, this love of golden warmth and the sun and everything that radiates has always been yours.
Yep, exactly.
So we must be given a space to find our truth. Nobody then, given this space and making these choices and diving into this, makes wrong choices. There are, some people like Miles Davis and some people don't. Some people like Iggy Pop and some people don't. And some people like Lucio Dalla and some people don't. It doesn't make any of these artists wrong. And this is important to always remember. Can I walk into a room and expect that somebody is going to understand my personality strengths, my dreams, and translate them into colors that have been sitting in my heart since I was a little girl?
And that's, I think, what you do, because obviously we've worked together in May, during the European conference,
Right.
Color Marketing Group, and you listen and you observe, and then you speak up, and that's, I think, and that's very much key. It's not just observing at people, looking at the colors and just throwing the colors at them. I mean, it's literally, there's a lot more to it, and that makes you such a lovely person to be with also, but also you really want to get people, and people feel that, and I think that makes them very comfortable.
Thank you for saying that. That is absolutely my goal. And with time, I might have mentioned this story to you, but I'll repeat it for your audience.
Yeah.
I had a client in Mexico, and one of her words was practical. And she had chosen for this a hammer and a ruler. And she contacted me after the session, and she said, "Can I change something?" I said, "Of course. This is your journey." And she said, "I hate the word practical. It's a word that has been in my family, and I have the feeling it's expected. I don't know whether it was expected or not, but she said, it's in my family and it has value in my family." And I said, "What would you like to have?" And she said, "Luxurious, but I'm a little bit nervous about choosing this word." And I said, "Well, as a good fairy, I give you permission to have the word luxurious, to think about the shapes and forms that are luxurious for you, about the colors that are luxurious for you." And she sent me these photos of either very sort of creamy and gold or very beautiful, opulent Bordeaux red environments. And she said, "I love these environments." I can't know in looking at somebody if they come into the room, if practical is their word or luxurious and opulent. But by doing this, and often in the first session, I say, "You've made a choice for the day. sit on it and think about it. Does this resonate with you deep down in your heart or not? And people will often come back and say, I cried because I just don't want this. And then this word has been sitting in her. There's nothing superficial about this, because this opulence and beauty is what, when it's free, we pass beauty in whatever form, more rebellious form or a more passionate form, we pass it on to other people. You know, there's that lovely saying from Dostoevsky, La bellezza ci salverà, beauty will save us. Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's not only about you, it's what you radiate to other people, the energy that you are. And that generally makes spaces more enjoyable to be in and other people more enjoyable to be with.
Right. So you are doing this podcast, I see you sitting across from me and listening and smiling and radiating, and it's all that golden warmth energy. And that's the gift that comes. You hop through the Zoom screen over to me, and I'm like, oh, yes, I want to answer this question. And yes, now let me think about that. And so it's always an exchange. It's always an exchange. And one of the things that made me decide to move to Italy, I did this after school, a 2-month trip through Europe. I got on at Reggio Calabria with my friend, and the train starts. There are 2 guys had got into our compartment, and one of them opens a suitcase, and it is filled with oranges, pane pugliese, and with bread, and with sausages. And they shared this with us. So all the orange and the green, this creamy bread, the Bordeaux, they shared it with us. And I thought, oh my gosh, I want to live in this country. But when we dress, we share. We share how relaxed we are, which makes somebody else relaxed. We share how shiny we are, which can uplift someone else. We share perhaps a structure and formality, which gives a sense of stability. We can share so much when through our voice, through our dress, through our body language. So all of it is a chance for us to live our purpose and connect to others.
Very true.
And nothing superficial about color or clothing.
That's not. And talking about large wardrobes, I'm obviously guilty. I think like many people in this world, because of that indecisiveness from probably the last couple of years of not knowing what your colors are, what you want to stand for. This is also what you help people with, right? So reduce that wardrobe, because you showed me how many outfits you can make with your wardrobe. I think you have 35 items in your wardrobe, none more.
Right.
And you can make like over 800 outfits with that. And I was just like, what?
Right. So I would say that this is so interesting. I spoke about a book that I was reading on money, greed, and happiness at Color Marketing.
Yeah.
And he talks about what happened with consumption when the GI Bill went into place in the States, and how consumption was raised, how it massively increased, and how everyone was encouraged, to get credit cards, to consume. And what was the fallout from that? Let's say, the Second World War, there was this idea of wardrobe planning. You carefully thought, what piece do I need? And you had it made, or you searched it out. Then all of a sudden, this idea of wardrobe planning became so outdated. Modern people didn't think about planning a wardrobe. They bought. And it was a sign of, yes, being modern and moving forward.
And being able to afford it.
And being able to afford it. And also because we could all afford it. This was then something that everybody could have. And of course, we moved to fast fashion, and then we know it got even cheaper. So I would say that, let me describe it like this. There's a restaurant in Milan called Bar. Maybe you know it.
Yeah.
And it is gray and sage green and cream. Gray, sage green and cream. That means in order to create this, they had to make a decision. They couldn't have all colors. If you look at Mondrian, he doesn't use all colors. So we're talking about a limited palette. Style in a restaurant, in a painting, is a limited palette.
Yeah.
It is a position. This we've understood, I think, in painting. We've understood it perhaps in designing a room.
Yeah.
You can't have all colors and all textures and all shapes. It's a decision. People do know their colors. It's inside them. They haven't articulated them. You have a very precise palette inside you. I have a very precise palette inside me. There will be some colors that you don't wish to wear. Is that true?
I'm not very keen on brown. I used to be, but I can't really wear brown anymore. There's some reds that I don't particularly like anymore. No. Like this is like I have this I'm wearing this linen gray dress today, but it has a hint of red, then I like it.
Right. See how specific it is. So you are a color authority. Clearly you can be very specific. The interesting thing, though, is that when you give people language, they also can be very specific. Mm-hmm. And so say, no, I don't like this. Why do I like this red and not that red? And then you can also say, okay, this has too much of this in it, or this has too much of that. But the point is that if you're designing a room, you can't have all colors.
No.
If you are preparing a wonderful tangine, you can't use all spices. So people who are at the top of their game actually are able to edit. Editing is incredibly necessary to create beauty with a specific message. So when I'm working with people, I explain to them, if you have a wardrobe, and let's say you have 3 pieces, just for today's example, I'll say a jacket, top, and trousers. If you have jacket, top, and trousers, and you open your wardrobe and you have that in 10 different colors, and all these colors work together,
yeah,
we are looking at 600 outfits, because you will need this twice a year, let's say summer and winter, so 60. You will never get to wear all of those. But it requires the limited palette. It requires not being able to have everything. And I guess the question would be here, when you are working with people, maybe there are 3 sofas that they like, or they start with 20 colors that they like, but you can't give them all the colors and create the atmosphere that they actually want. Right?
True. Yeah. It's just, I think it's something that it's a reset. It's a tabula rasa of how we've been doing things, how we've been thinking, how we've been acting, how we've been buying. And I think with what's been happening over the last couple of weeks, it's very clear that we cannot continue this way.
It is very clear that we cannot continue this way. And we have to let go of something.
Yeah.
So we need to borrow from places where we understand that. We understand it in food consumption. Most people will go to a shop, and if they buy grapefruit and they take it home and nobody in the family eats grapefruit, they'll say, wow, grapefruit doesn't work. I'm not buying grapefruit again, because what you are confronted with at the end of the week is stuff in your fridge that wasn't eaten.
Yep.
and people feel horrible about waste. I go into closets of mostly people who tell me that they don't have a great interest in, I'm doing this in quotation mark, fashion. And they have overstuffed wardrobes because, unlike with food where you've got to take it out because it's going to go bad, people don't regularly do an audit.
Mm-hmm.
If you take, I did this when, I don't know if you know Hot and Cool, I mentioned it, the think tank in Berlin. So Luca was here to visit me and I had my 30 pieces. And I said to him, look, Luca, this is my winter wardrobe. I said, this is an item I haven't worn at all. This is an item I haven't worn at all. This is an item I haven't worn at all. So basically, I'm down to 20 items.
Yeah.
Most people are doing those 20 items. What's happening for people to reduce is that people buy the same thing over and over again because they don't understand color energy. They don't understand, I've bought all of this gentleness. Now I need to buy excitement because we don't feel the same every day. But if you have these 10 energies, you do not need 200 garments. 200 garments is what Greenpeace said is the average number. This was Kleiderkonsum Deutschland, so the clothing consumption in Germany. Greenpeace said is about 180 items. So if people do not understand color and color energy, what they're feeling, what they want to bring into a certain situation, what they need, do I need to bring in bliss or do I need to bring in empowerment? They will keep buying gentleness over and over again, not able to create the message they want, and then they'll go back to buying more.
Yeah,
this is
because they're
something
confused.
They're confused. They're confused. The intentionality that I see in organic shops is phenomenal. I don't see people, or very rarely with a cart. I see them going around with a basket and they pick up a piece of cheese that is 10 euro or whatever. And they think, will I eat this? Will I use it? Will I really, really consume this? People are very conscious and intentional in organic shops. But there is this idea that, it's only 5 euro at Primark or H&M, I'll buy it. No, it's not only 5 euro. It is unbelievable mental drain to have a t-shirt in a shape and a color that does not express your energy or your expertise, your truth. So it's mental drain. It's never worn. It's not responsible. So the limited palette is in art effective. It is in designing a hotel effective. And it's the only way to do a workout that's fabulous and truthful and zero waste.
That's a perfect statement, I think, to end this podcast with. That last sentence just said it all.
Right. Well, thank you
This was
so
amazing.
much, Judith. Yeah. And thank you for these amazingly insightful questions. And you really pushed me to think. And so it's been a mutual session.
It sure has been, yes. And I thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge. And I definitely have some work to do this weekend.
Oh, I'm looking forward to hearing it. Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed this last episode. If you are a fan of the Color Authority podcast, please let us know by reviewing and rating our show on whichever platform you're listening on. The next episode is coming out next month. And in the meantime, I'm wishing you a wonderful, colorful day.